the app bugged out here. When I change to the front camera, I seem to drop. Here we are inspecting a swarm we've caught recently. We've got a little bit of cross comb that we need to fix up, and we're doing live Q&A. So jump across to here and put your questions in the comments below, and we'll keep going. So thank you very much to all of you tuning in. We've got people from all around the world. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And look at this. We've got a bit of comb down here going across. We need to fix that up. This is a great example of why you need to get in when you catch a swarm and fix up your comb before they get too advanced on building crossways. If you've left it too long, you will need to get in there and cut out the good sections of brood and rubber band them into the frames to get them going straight. That's a bit of another exercise to do. So if you find they're really wonky, then you may need to come back equipped with some rubber bands to deal with it. You got a bit of background noise, Trace?
Yeah.
So maybe just mute till questions come in, please. And while you're thinking of your questions, we will just keep looking at this beautiful comb here. So I've already pulled a couple of frames out for those that were on the call earlier. You can see their amazing comb they're building. Look at that. So Trace is phoning in here, and she's got a few questions to ask, and we'll get to answering those.
Sorry, Seeds, I'm having a few tech problems of my own up here at headquarters. But one of the questions that came in, I seem to have lost some of the questions that came in on YouTube. So I think there was a couple I didn't get to, so you might want to repost those ones. And one of them was just wanting to, I froze just when you answered that, when you pulled out the comb from the box, could you have left it there for the bees? So a few people wanting that answer again.
Okay, you could leave it there for the bees, but the issue with doing that is they might actually connect it to the bottom bar. Imagine if you've got a big piece of comb like this. This is the piece in question. This one I broke off as I was inspecting. It's very fragile, and it was a little bit crossways, so it broke off as I was inspecting. Luckily, it's just honey. There's no brood or eggs in there yet, so that's fine. We can enjoy eating that beautiful comb, and honey tastes really interesting when it's not quite formed yet as well. Very floral, as the nectar's slowly halfway to turning into honey. But if you break that bit off and put it right under, imagine that on the landing board, you can see how they might decide just to use that and connect it to the frames. So better off taking it out and keeping it nice and clean in there. A few little chunks down there isn't a problem, but I wouldn't leave a whole lot of comb on the bottom board underneath the frame, so you'll get into a mess. Great question.
Great. So did the bees sleep?
Bees do sleep, and you can witness that with the flow hive window, and you'll see bees that are still down the cells, and you go, oh, is that bee died down the cell? But it's not. It's just having a sleep, and it's they shift work, so they'll sleep for a while and then keep going, and the hive never stops. It keeps doing its thing. They're busy bees, day in, day out, 24/7. So you can wake up that bee just by tapping on it if you feel like it, and you can watch the bee wake up and crawl, reverse out of its cell, and become part of the working busy hive again.
Fantastic. Oh, great. Cedar, if you were wanting to use the wax strips in the swarm box and the wires, how can you use those in your brood box? And if so, how do they actually become attached?
Absolutely. That's a very popular thing to do. It's called wax foundation. I'm glad I don't use that anymore. However, you can get into problems like this when your bees go a bit crossways and you have to fix it up. But once they're going straight, they're away. We don't need the wire reinforcing with the flow hive anymore because we're not centrifuging our frames. But if you want to, the frames are equipped with the holes in the side that you can poke your wire through and thread it through back and forth like you're making a little fence, and you'll need to tighten that up. Plenty of videos out there, some wire frames. Then you get a car battery and you connect it to the wires briefly. Depending on whether they're stainless or steel will depend how long you'll need to connect that, and it's usually not long, a couple of seconds, and that will melt your foundation sheet into those wires. Important step to do. If you just kind of try and mash it in like I've tried in the past, what happens is that foundation sheet falls off in the hive and you get this big wavy thing and you get into a big mess to clean up. So foundation sheets need to be well connected to the wires, otherwise you'll get into a big comb mess.
And Sina, it's actually a question we get asked a lot through customer support as well, that we use the comb guides. Sometimes people are a bit unsure where to put those comb guides, and one of the questions that we get is that what a regular beekeepers do, or is that sort of a seed eschew beekeeping type thing with the comb guides?
So the comb guides, we actually learnt that from the USA beekeepers, and it's been popular over there for some time. It's also popular with the top bar beekeepers. They use some form of guide to guide the bees into drawing, and it's also popular with bees in general over the last So while it's a very natural way to do it, it's not for everybody. There's lots of beekeepers who prefer to go through the process of wax and wiring or using plastic foundation to keep their bees in nice straight lines. I find that process tedious, and I'd much rather just put in a little bit of effort now to get them building straight, and after that they'll follow suit. So I'm very happy that my days of waxing and wiring are over. My father tends to use a little bit of wax. He might just put 1 or 2 sheets in so they get a nice straight start. That's something you can do as well. When you're taking a split, you're generally taking some straight frames out of another hive, so they've got a good guide to get going. In this case, we just shook a swarm into a box. To me, 9 times out of 10, that works fine. They'll build pretty well straight on all of the frames. They didn't, and we just need to get them back in line, which I'll show you how to do now. So this is just a little bit crossways. You can see how there's the guide at the top, and I don't know if you can get a good idea that they've started on this side, but they're going a little bit bent, and if they follow suit, they'll end up with a wonky comb. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hold the camera. I'm just on my own today, and actually show you how to do that. Let's have a try. So I've just put the frame here. There we go. I need to come back a little bit, and what we'll do is just use our Hive tool to straighten that up. There we go. So I'm looking at that going, how do I straighten that? I can see that it's pretty well on the guide, but it's a bit of an angle. So all I probably need to do is give that one a little bit of a twist, and that'll get them building straight. It's nice and straight now. Don't worry about breaking the comb a little bit. Try not to snap it off, but the bees will.
Beautiful. Cedar Wendy's just asking if, sorry, Belinda, if there'd been
Idea would be to get a couple of rubber bands that span all the way around this way, and that could hold a piece of comb in place, and they will then attach that comb, build onto it, attach it to the surrounds, and the brood will be able to be looked after. emerge, but then again you might create a bit of a mess doing that. In some cases you can leave it under the lid sides of the comb. There's a few tips there.
Great. And look, Amy's just come back. Obviously, we were having just a few little tiny glitches there. To just wait for it to clear up today, or just
If good idea to at least have a quick look. So if you can wait for a break in the weather, just have a quick look, see if they're building straight enough on the guide. So if you're just going for foundationless frames like this, then the sooner you
in the Hunter Valley, and they've just removed an old super that was full of super. Or do they need to replace the queen?
interesting one. There's a few reasons for them to go crazy. Most and the only thing you can do if that's the situation is remove the queen and replace it with another one that is already mated from a queen breeder, which is the best idea. And have a look at that. They can get a bit more toey when they have no queen at all. So just have a look and check that could be the case. Shook the swarm in on his own, and now we're just getting in there and adjusting some of their comb to make sure they're building straight on these comb guides. Any questions, put them in the comments.
So, Seeds, are you still going to keep trying to find the queen in the swarm?
Well, it would be a good idea. It's a little bit challenging to film I haven't fired up my smoker for a while, which has consequently gone out. So I'm just going to throw some more fuel in, bearing in mind the smoker is quite hot at this point. So
Seeds, what are you putting in your smoke? What are you putting in the smoker?
this is organic sugarcane mulch that I've did Okay. Now, if I give these bees a little bit of smoke, what you'll find is they'll move away from the area and I'll be able to see what is going on in there. Okay, I'm seeing honey there.
Yeah, Daniel's asking, they've got two little, I'm not sure, junco bees who come into my garden and eat the bees. The colony is collapsing and the queen is gone. Could birds preying on a hive decimate the bee population?
Not usually, but I'm not familiar with those. We've got the rainbow bee eaters that come and eat bees, and I sort of think fair's fair if they take a few bees. But it's probably a secondary problem unless they're really eating every bee that comes out. Perhaps the lost your queen for some reason, and that means your hive will slowly die out. So, or there could be another reason. So make sure you get in there, inspect for your pests and diseases, and try and rectify the problem. You'll need to give it a new queen if it hasn't got one, or
Frame.
so it's a pretty simple process. It's just you poke it in. You can either put a couple of little nails and that'll hold it in, or a little couple of dabs of glue, and that's all you need to do, and your frame is ready to go.
Fantastic. See, Pauline saying that is there anything they need to do, or is that just normal?
Okay, condensation is what you've got there. So that'll happen when you've got some humid air and then a bit of a cold snap. That's normal to have condensation on the walls of hive. Some people say that that's actually helpful because that's a water source for the bees. Of wet damp in your hive coming through is pretty normal. That'll come and go as the season changes.
Is that?
Vents closed.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, so the vent at the bottom, um, just for a day, they'll work out where the entrance is pretty quickly, and then you can put the vents in the upward position to allow more ventilation if you want, or you can leave it closed. Either way, and that means that your colony will just limit as you coming out. Nice idea, but it's not the end of the world. Pretty quickly if you left the vents.
Beekeeping, and just so, what is the best thing to avoid your bees from swarming?
Okay, swarming is a natural thing, right? Bees, as they breed up, will swarm. It's what they do. It's how they divide. Now, genetics plays a big role in how likely they are to swarm. Some bees will swarm one season, others will go years without swarming. Now you can limit that, and it's a good thing to do in springtime, by making sure the queen has spaces to lay eggs. And you can do that by putting some fresh frames, taking some honeycomb out of the brood nest, putting some fresh ones in the center, probably one about here and one about there would be a good thing to do in the springtime. Or you can take a split, and that'll make a lot of space in the brood nest. Now I just successfully cut that comb there. See, it's nice on the guide over here. Beautiful comb, look at that. And then for whatever reason they decided to go over to that side. So what I've done is I've cut that off, and we'll get them going nice and straight, and we'll straighten up this little piece over here. Now to do that, I might put this one that we've put out for a while back in, and we'll pull this one out to work on it. Look at that. It's a beautiful thing. But
Beautiful.
they shouldn't be overlapping comb like that, you see. So what we're going to have to do is join that together. In wax here. It's incredible. A couple of yellow pieces down the cells. They're starting to store some pollen, which is a good thing. So I'm just looking around.
Comb.
Yes, it is. Well, it's not quite honey yet. It is nectar. So they're going through that amazing process of dewatering the nectar. They're halfway there, and that will taste amazingly floral, as a really, it's basically flower nectar in conversion. The bees are taking it home and they fan it, they dry it out, they reduce that water content, and then when they're happy with the moisture content down below the 20% range, they will cap it off, and that will mean that it's
In Australia on the east coast, and Rick's saying in Sydney today it's about 17 degrees. Is that too cold to do an inspection?
it isn't. Just be a little bit mindful that you don't want to leave any uncapped brood out I can't see any eggs down there, but it is looking good in terms of their beautiful white comb. Hopefully there is a queen in here.
Wow, that's so exciting.
School.
Oh,
Yeah.
School's back.
School's back. We've been at lockdown doing a lot of fun things at home, but school's back now, so it's not here today. But next week's holidays, so we might find him beekeeping next week. We'll see.
Fantastic. See, just by looking at that comb, is it like people, it's like a double layer?
Hold a foundation in the center, and then this comb coming out one side and out the other. But what the person is probably referring to is the way you've got one piece overlapping another, and that's what you don't want, and that's why we're in here today, is to fix that up and get them building straight. So I'm actually going to chop this bit off and then push it across to join with the other piece. And once I've got nice straight combs, they'll follow suit. A lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, I'll find they will build off the comb guides, but this hive, for whatever reason, needs a bit of a fix-up, a bit of encouragement to build in straight lines. Perhaps they got out and got some fermented nectar and they got on the piss a little bit. Who knows? Can happen.
Look at it. Yeah, fantastic. We're getting some great replies actually in the question seeds on different questions and different ideas about insulating your hive and using hessian bags, and so it's great to see everyone engaging. And look, obviously we are having a few dropout issues, so sorry for that, but any questions that you've missed will get answered again, so keep them coming. We're trying to do them. Seed is in the paddock at his house and holding the camera, so we're doing the best we can here.
Okay, so I wonder if I can get in there and fix that up without upsetting this camera. I've just put the camera on a bee box here on the side. I'm going to attempt to just fix up that piece of comb while we're on camera.
Fantastic, Santa. So how long do you think it's going to be before this box will be ready to have a super added to it?
That looks like they're going pretty good. Just a couple of weeks, I think. This time of year, there's a lot of nectar coming in. They should build quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is chop off this, and this is what you have to do if the bees start doing this double layer thing and they've gone off the guide. So you want to chop off some of the comb like this and just check there's no brood in it first. This one's just honey. I'm just going to chop straight down like that. It's very, very delicate in the beginning, so we're working very to be a nice little tasty treat later. We'll put that aside, and that's given me the ability now to push this over to join the other side. So all I'm going to do now, and it's a nice idea to use a bit of smoke to get the bees out of the way, so I'll get my smoker going and just puff a little bit of smoke here. You can have a look at that. The bees are now clearing out. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit, and that gives me room to work. And what I'm doing is it's going to push the
It's not often, I guess, we often find this in our brood boxes, so everyone's kind of loving watching the way you're sorting this out and watching the warped comb being fixed.
So this one's going to go across. There we go. That's all you need to do. Obviously it mashes the comb a little bit, but bees are amazing at fixing that up. The important thing is to get them building in a straight line. So you just need to give it a bit of a nudge, really. If they're completely sideways, chop the piece off and rubber band it in. If it's got no eggs or larvae in it, don't worry about it, just eat it, which we could do here as well. We could simply just knock this off and get them to start again. So this also needs pushing across. So this is getting a bit dicey now because there's not much holding this piece on. But if it falls off, it's only nectar, so it doesn't really matter. But I've managed to straighten that up now. So the bees will then join those two bits together, and what we've got is a nice straight honeycomb for them to follow suit with the next one. So I'm not sure if you can see all of that, what I'm doing. I should tilt the camera around a little bit further perhaps. Those two pieces are now in a straight enough line for this frame to go back into the box again. Repeat the process with any others that aren't straight, and check back reasonably soon to make sure they have indeed joined the parts together. Any more questions?
Thanks, Ed. I hope. I know there's a bit of glitching, so hopefully everyone's okay, because everyone's loving watching you repairing this flow frame in your paddock. So when you drop the swarm in there, Cedar, did you just leave all 8 frames in there? Is that how you drop the swarm in? Do you keep all the brood frames in the box?
So what I usually do is I'll just put the bees in. Crazy, just hanging off the comb. So really important to put all your frames in and press them together, because the bee space is important, one frame to the other. If you want to give them a good chance of building straight, you've got to press all of the frames together and leaving the excess space on either side. That's another really important step. Now I'm just noticing the tone of the bees changing a little bit.
Yeah, we can pick it up. It's amazing.
I think it was as this smoke just drifted across, so we're getting a bit annoyed about it. So, but what happens with smoke is they get annoyed for a second and then they usually settle down. So there we go. Any more questions?
Yes, it's just a question on fixing up this comb. If it broke off and there was brood in it, would you try and put it back on?
Yes, I'd use a couple of rubber bands and just stretch them around the hole, would hold a section in like that, and the bees could then rejoin it to the top of the frame.
And what are some of the reasons for this cross comb to happen in your brood box?
Who knows? There could be genetic influence. It could be just the bees just happened to start going sideways, so they kept going. It's 9 times out of 10 they'll build straight, but not every time. So it's good to get in there early, make sure they are building straight, or fix them up, get them building straight, and then they'll follow suit after that. Good one. All right, we'll put that one back in the box, and we'll keep working on those. I'm just here by myself today, so it's a little bit harder than usual, but time where we are. So you've got everything from the forest. You can see over here, even the weeds, like over here, you can see some flowering white. And pretty soon the ironbarks, you can see these big eucalypts here, will burst into bloom, and that'll be a really good.
This is Pauline's asking, and they had a similar thing happen to their bulging brood box last weekend, and they used rubber bands, and she's just wondering, do you use rubber bands in them as well?
Yeah, I'll use rubber bands if I've broken a piece of comb off, and I want to put it back. If it's just honey, I won't bother putting it back. I'll just put it straight. But if it's brood, then certainly rubber band it in, and that will hold it in place temporarily while the bees then do their amazing work connecting it back up to the top.
And so once you've done that and they've done it all straight, do you take those rubber bands off?
No, they fall to the floor. They'll eventually the end.
So there hasn't been much brood so far. Is that because you're not in the middle of the box yet?
Well, these bees built lopsided too. They built all over one side of the box. So it's possible that the queen isn't laying yet, or I don't have a laying queen in here. but I'm going to have to keep looking to find out. I'm hoping on the next frame or two we'll see some eggs. It is early days. It hasn't even been a week yet, but I should start to see some eggs now. So fingers crossed. I could keep looking. There is some more comb to fix up as well. So I'm going to get into that. Meanwhile, keep asking some questions.
Great, Cedar. And so, Cedar, if you're having an inspection and you can't see any of those eggs, will you assume there is no queen? Will you just leave it, or what will you do?
I will check back, and if I still don't see a queen, I'll assume there isn't one. So if you check back in another week and there's still no sign, then yes, you're going to have to rectify the situation somehow. You might decide even to merge this back with its original colony or with another one. You might decide to buy in a queen, or you could give it some frames with eggs from another hive. They're about your choices. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the camera over here while I keep working the hive. That way I'll have two hands, which will be handy.
I was wondering, do you have a lot of other bees on your apiary?
Have I've got about 40 hives down the hill, and my sister's got a few she's building up as well.
Just asking. Like every time they're getting stung, the reaction's getting worse. Have you heard of
that? I've heard of both, where reactions can get worse, and the other also that reactions can get better. So please be careful. Some people do have adverse anaphylaxis. Having said that, I'm no expert in first aid. Please follow first aid advice.
Thanks. And Dana, another question, and actually this was a question a few people were calling in yesterday asking us, if you don't want to do a split on your hive, but do you
So whatever you're looking through, 2 whole boxes worth of brood. So I prefer to keep one, but it's up to you. A lot of people, especially in the colder places, do a double brood. So seek some. I like to take splits, but you can certainly add another box. It will definitely, either another super or another brood box will definitely create a lot less congestion in the hive, and they're less likely to swarm. So that will help.
So, Cedar, on that, what if you added another brood box? What is to then stop them from swarming? You give them the extra space. Are they?
If they've already decided to, and they've raised another queen already and all of that, then yes, they will be likely to swarm. And so it depends how early you to take a split, it'll give the split a really good head start.
Hives can be supported in one area.
Hives to be supported in one area. Commercial beekeepers will generally put up to 100 in one location. So as a hobbyist, it's usually not something that comes into concern, but more nectar available than hundreds of hives could bring in this area. But then you'll get other times where there's not much at all. So it really does ebb and flow. Okay.
Fantastic. Seda, just look, you just mentioned it, but I think we lost you a little bit there when you were talking about adding that other brood box. Should it go above the existing brood box or below?
Okay. This is a really depends on your strategy with the frames. Now, if you're using naturally drawn comb with these comb guides, then put it below. Bees tend to like to hang putting straight up above the brood nest and not starting on the guides, and it'll get really wonky. Better still, you swap the frames around, checkerboard them between the two boxes. So if you've got a box full of straight frames, then put half of them in the second brood box and half below. And that way you can use your naturally drawn comb and comb guides, and the other frames will create nice straight walls and limit their ability to go sideways. If you're using foundation, it doesn't matter. You could just put a whole box of foundation wax and wired frames on above or below, and that would be okay.
Oh, great. Thanks, Seda. And then, of course, the queen excluder is above both of the brood boxes.
Yes, that's right. So you want to exclude your queen from your honey collection areas, but not from the rest of your hive. Okay. We got time for one more question.
Oh, fantastic, Seda. So do you, I mean, this is a question we're always being asked, of course, all the time. Would you prefer to add another brood box? Or if you didn't want to do that, would 2 supers also help bring the bees from swimming?
And you can hardly see the combs because there's so much bees, then adding another super for them will really limit that. Thing you can do is harvest some honey, make some space, and that way, instead of the new honey being stored downstairs where the queen's trying to lay, they'll store it up in the super. So adding another super is good, harvesting some honey is good. A lot of brand new area in spring, and that'll limit your swarming tendencies. Or better still, take a split by taking 3 or 4 of the frames. You look at this new swarm and fixing up a bit of the comb. If you have caught a swarm, we're here in the southern. Bit of a mess to clean up like this if you wait too long. So thank you very much for tuning in, and also let us know what you'd like us to cover next week. Same time, we will have something interesting to show you.